This video talks you through completing tab 4, Focus Areas, in the Adaptation 5 worksheet. This has a corresponding written guide in section 3.5 of Adaptation 5. This tab for Focus Areas requires you to collate some key information from previous tabs that you've completed, allowing you to compare potential impacts, their severity and their likelihood with existing resilience measures to identify focus areas where adaptation is needed most in your circumstance. These will be the impacts that, firstly, are caused by weather events that are of biggest risk to you, but also things that your site and operations aren't already resilient to, i.e. things you're not already carrying out adaptation techniques to. You might decide that some of the impacts caused by weather events are less likely, should still be prioritised to address because they're particularly severe. An example of that could be your extremely low risk of drought. However, you only depend on one water supply, and so if there was a drought or access to that water was cut off, the impacts could be really catastrophic. In those cases, you might be able to implement an adaptation technique that could be used to adapt to other things as well, which makes it more efficient technique to carry out. For example, your water supply might be cut off in storms or floods as well as in droughts. So if there are ways that you can combine those issues, then hopefully you can make it a more feasible activity to carry out. For now, try and refrain from considering whether or not you feel adaptation suggestions are feasible or not in your circumstance, and include any technique that's relevant to you. Later on in the worksheet, there'll be an opportunity to group the techniques based on feasibility, and the information on those who don't have the capacity or resource to carry out will be useful, as it will be used to build a case for support for future adaptation projects. So the process on this table is as follows. Copy and paste all your impacts and the assigned severity level from tab 2 into this tab. And of course you'll also need to copy and paste the severity levels that you've completed in column D here into column 4 here. Then identify in column E which weather events each of these impacts could be caused by. Hopefully this would be relatively straightforward, and then you can use, and there will often be multiple weather events that something can be caused by at once. And then use your risk levels from tab 1, risk, here, to assign a risk level to each impact. So if we look at an example, this top one here, it's a direct health impact. It's decreased food security, which may result in a less access to food, particularly affordable healthy foods, and the impact of that might be health issues related to lack of food. If we're looking at a severity level there, that would have already been determined in tab 2. Let's say you decided a severity level of 2 out of 4. If we're looking at weather events, there's a few different things that could cause a decreased food security, but the argument of this, let's say it was hotter summers, and you already have a risk level associated with hotter summers in tab 1. So we've decided that that was a 3 out of 4 risk that might happen. You could split this column into 2 if you wish, and have current risk and long-term risk if you've got that information in tab 1. Many scenarios could also be caused by multiple different weather events, as I mentioned, so don't hesitate to include multiple weather events in one cell, or separate, and if you're going to do that, then probably separate those by punctuation, such as a semicolon, and use the same phrasing for a weather event across every cell, and that will help you be able to filter by specific events later. And then you'll be able to include for each impact addressed existing resilience measures that you already have included, and copy and paste these into here. Next, finally, you can determine a priority level for each impact. Now, as with risk and severity levels, this isn't expected to be determined by a robust evidence-based model for this specific exercise. It's recommended you multiply the risk and severity levels together, and then use the red, amber, green matrix, the RAG matrix, in table 5 of section 3.5 of Adaptation 5 to determine a priority level between 1 and 4. These are the tables that are shown in the section 3.5 of Adaptation 5. So if your severity level was 2, and our risk level was 3, then that makes 6, which is, if we look at this table, between 5 and 8, which makes our priority level 3 out of 4 for this one. You might amend this priority level afterwards rather than just looking at those numbers based on things like whether existing adaptation measures are already in place, as identified in that column of the tab, and whether you think the activity is a simple, quick measure that should be prioritised anyway. You could do this modification now, or you could come to compare priority levels in section 3.7. Also use this table to help you identify some scenarios where the techniques might have priority levels different to just this simply multiplying them together. It's quite likely that you'll decide right now that your immediate and short-term actions will be focused on the most common weather events or the ones that you feel are most urgent to address, but it is important to bear in mind many adaptation techniques can tackle multiple risks, and those ones you might want to prioritise as well, because your final action plan should really consider all different weather events that could happen.